let's look at the work of Dr. Rosine Lallement, because in her work, which you can look up online at the link that you see on this screen, she discovered that the clouds within the local interstellar medium, which is the area of space around the solar system, appear to be flowing towards the solar system from the direction of the galactic center. That means that we actually have proof that these energy fields are emanating from the center of the galaxy, rippling through space, expanding away from the center, and then impinging upon the solar system. You can see that dramatized in this diagram that we have created by computer animation. So let's look at that for just a minute. You see the Milky Way galaxy, and as we zoom in on the Milky Way galaxy, you can watch these ripples expanding away from the center, expanding through the galaxy. And then when they hit our solar system, what do? They charge up the sun. The sun releases energetic particles. Those particles are captured in the atmospheres of the planets. The planets become brighter, they become hotter, they become more magnetic. And in fact, it's also now conclusively stimulating evolution on the planets themselves. When you look again at the 62 million year cycle discovered by Drs. Mueller and Rode, you're seeing the actual signatures of these galactic energy waves rippling through the solar system, colliding with our Earth, and reprogramming the DNA on the Earth. I just showed you in this video how the salamander's egg can be shined through with a laser and redirected into a frog's egg, and the frog's egg then completely metamorphosizes into a salamander. I showed you chicken eggs that were hatched after being zapped with energy from a duck, and they came out as half duck, half chicken. I showed you how lactose-intolerant bacteria would spontaneously evolve a mouth that could digest lactose. I showed you the Italian wall lizard that in the presence of a vegetarian diet completely rewrote his DNA to become vegetarian and to create cecal valves in his digestive tract that allowed him to be able to digest plants. And I showed you a lizard, the Anomalous, that was able to make his legs first longer to run away from a predator and then shorter when he had to run up into the trees. So you're seeing now that life is a field. DNA does not evolve randomly. DNA is an intelligent template, and the template listens to what's going on in nature. The template pays attention to what's happening in its environment, and it makes changes accordingly. But more importantly, what you're now seeing suggests that the galaxy itself has the information that is causing human evolution to be dramatically speeding up. So do we have any evidence that in fact human evolution is dramatically speeding up? We've looked at the fossil record and we've seen examples of other species that can clearly be energetically reprogrammed. We've seen these 62 million year waves of energy coming through. We know that we're at the end of a 62 million year wave of energy right now. We've seen that the galaxy actually does have ripples of redshift, and that Aston's equations show us that those ripples correspond to planes of existence or densities of energy within the quantum medium. So this quantum medium can reprogram DNA. And we have evidence that it's actually happening to our own DNA. We can look and see that human evolution is speeding up. Look no farther than the work of Dr. John Hawkes, an anthropologist from the University of Madison, Wisconsin. He studied rapid evolution, or what's called positive selection, in human beings. And what he found was that in the last 5,000 years, human evolution is now moving 100 times faster. Specifically, as you look to the last 40,000 years, he said that during that time, we have been going through what he called supercharged evolutionary change. The most unusual discovery that John Hawkes came up with is that we are more genetically different from people 5,000 years ago, that means 3000 BC, than they are from the Neanderthals. In other words, if you take someone from 3000 BC, they are more similar to a Neanderthal than they are to us. That completely flies in the face of how most of us think that the human being as it is now is pretty much the same as it's always been, and that nothing much has changed. This mainstream media link from the Daily Galaxy is one of the ones that shows you where this was published, so you can go back and look at it for yourself. And this link comes to you from the BBC News. So clearly this is not being hidden, it's right out there in the open. All I'm doing is taking these various elements and putting them together so you can see how, in fact, what's happening to the solar system right now is an energetic upgrade caused by these waves of energy from the galaxy rippling through and impacting on our solar system, reprogramming and rewriting DNA as we think of it right now. You can also see what's called the Flynn Effect, in which everyone's IQ is increasing by an average of 3 points per decade. This is not unique to any one country. It's been occurring over 20 different countries, and those are only the ones that Dr. Flynn was studying. The change has been going on for more than a century, over 100 years. That means that the IQ test is measuring the average as being a score of 100. A 100 IQ is what the average person is supposed to have. In order to keep the IQ of 100 as an average score, they have to keep reducing everyone's IQ by 3 points. So 10 years from now, your IQ is going to get knocked down another 3 points, another 3 points, and that's because everyone else is getting smarter. So you may also be smarter in the future, but you would test smarter as well. That's the key. The IQ has to be adjusted because human beings keep getting intelligent. This has happened for over a century. 3 IQ points per decade is a phenomenal effect. And what was most interesting was that Flynn discovered that the increase is most striking for tests that measure the ability to recognize abstract, nonverbal patterns. Nonverbal patterns. What does that mean? That means symbolism, creativity, intuition, not literacy. So this is not an effect of people reading more newspapers, going on the internet, reading more books and magazines. This is the result of the spontaneous information that comes in from the field that changes the way that we think, the way that we feel, and changes our minds so that we become more intelligent. This amounts to a cultural renaissance, as Dr. Flynn said, and thus it is something that will fundamentally alter humanity as we now know it. We are in the evolutionary fast lane. In this next study, you can see that 45 out of 52 countries in the world are showing a significant increase in everybody's average happiness. That suggests again that the same energy that creates blissful emotions and blissful consciousness when you go around the standing stones and those ancient sites can be in fact upgrading and activating our own consciousness and our own thought process here and now. We also are seeing within the United States that the gap between the people who are the most happy and the most unhappy is narrowing. That means that everything is normalizing and everyone overall is becoming happier. You're seeing less extremes and everyone is balancing out. And both of these are based on surveys in which people are asked questions and we're able to gauge that their happiness is increasing over time. So, if the Earth's energy has an effect on our consciousness, then what about the galaxy? We've already seen studies earlier in this talk about how the Earth's energy directly affects our consciousness. But now we're seeing waves of energy coming from the galaxy, moving through, impacting the solar system, upgrading DNA, upgrading life. Is there an even more direct way to show that energy fields from the galaxy could be changing our consciousness, changing our minds, changing our perspective? And the answer is absolutely yes. The scientist who came up with this is Dr. James Spottiswoode, who was studying ESP, or what he called anomalous cognition. He did a meta-analysis of all this research. By combining over 20 years of studies into these abilities that people have. These are ordinary people that were documented and done under scientifically stable conditions. Their ESP ability was standardized and put on a certain gradient scale, and what Spottiswoode did was to take all these different studies and meta-analyze them so that everyone in every study is given a universal score of how psychic they were so they could all be compared. No one had ever combined together all these different studies before until Spottiswoode came along. He was the first one to do it. And what he was looking for was to see if people would be more psychic during a certain time of the day. Could it be that when the sun is right over your head during high noon, that your ESP ability would go up? Well, the typical day is called a synodic day, and that is the day that is measured by the Earth moving around the sun. There was no observable time period where people's ESP would increase in a normal synodic day. However, the sidereal day did have an effect. The sidereal day is measured by the Earth's position relative to the center of the galaxy, not relative to the Sun. So this is basically our position in the absolute space of the galaxy. He did find an effect. As you look in this graph, what you see here is that at approximately 13 hours and 30 minutes local sidereal time, there is a 400% increase in people's psychic ability. What does that time mean? Well, 0 hours sidereal time is when the center of the galaxy would be at high noon, directly overhead. So what we're seeing is that it's at the exact opposite, meaning that your back on the Earth is facing the center of the galaxy. Now, why would something like this happen? Well, if you take a lens and you hold it up to the sun, you can focus that lens in such a way that the sunlight becomes a point. And if you're a kid, you may have done this where you can burn leaves with that little lens and set them on fire. You don't need a lighter. You don't even need to rub sticks together. You just need a little lens. You could even use eyeglasses. Well, what if the Earth's magnetic field is lensing the energy from the center of the galaxy and focusing it together down into a single concentrated point on the other side? That's the best explanation I've been able to come up with. We don't exactly know how this is working yet. That comes to other scientists after me to discover. But what I am showing you is that no matter how it's being done, it is directly correlated with the galactic center. That can only be explained as if the galactic center is like this jet of energy coming out, shooting energy out through the galaxy, so that when we are in the right position directly opposite it, our psychic ability goes up by 400%. Well, think about the idea that your mind might be an energy field. Think about the idea that if your mind is energetic in nature, if it's an energy field, then when the field starts vibrating faster, the vibration increase means that your consciousness moves faster. Things are moving faster in the field, meaning you can think faster, meaning insight comes to you more rapidly, meaning that your consciousness is changing. So this is the bottom line proof that shows us that this renaissance that we're seeing in our society, where so many people are developing synchronicity, ESP, even the ability to potentially channel other forms of life and give them a voice, is coming about because the galaxy has decided that we would evolve at this time in our life. This is the real working root of the 2012 prophecy. This is what I'm going to be discussing in my book, which is due out hopefully in the spring of 2010, 2012 Enigma, Blueprints for a Golden Age. This is the same material that I'm going to be discussing in my film, Convergence the Movie. It is my sincere hope that you can run with the ball, because when the book comes out, 2012 Enigma, you will have all the references, all the links, so that you can look at this science yourself, show it to your friends, and bring out conclusive proof, and give them evidence to see beyond what they have always known, to look to the future, to look to a future that is positive for humanity, positive for all of us. I also invite you to come and attend one of my Convergence seminars, because in those seminars, what you've just seen in this video represents only the beginning. I go through a 16-hour lecture with over 800 different slides, and I will show you how all of the things that we've been talking about up till now are then mirrored in prophecies that are given to us from the 1950s. I read you what those prophecies are. This is also going to be done in the 2012 Enigma book. You're going to see the prophecies. You're going to understand what they say. You're going to see the Bible in a whole new way. You're going to see biblical prophecies that clearly establish that there is interplanetary climate change, that there is a spontaneous evolution that is likely to result from this. You will also hear about the Law of One series. The Law of One series in 1981 directly pinpointing the period of 2011 to 2013 as a time when there would be a spontaneous energetic metamorphosis of life on Earth. I'm putting out all the evidence, all the information publicly. The book is not going to be very expensive. The seminar tours also include a dream sharing circle on Sundays where we go through and teach you how to gain contact with your own higher self by having you share your dreams with me, and I then analyze them and help you to understand what they mean. As we go through this in the group circle, we find more and more people are able to understand the symbolism of the dream, how dream language works, and how things that you may have misinterpreted in the past actually have a message that directly pertains to your life. Because it is my firm belief that dreams give you the most important thing you need to know at any one point. In my lecture tours, you also get to hear music from the album Wanderer Awakening. This is another product that's available on my website, and you actually get to see me perform these songs live in front of an audience when I do these conferences. Wanderer Awakening is the story of an angelic being who helps create the earth and then becomes karmically entangled and has to incarnate in physical form in order to help alleviate the problem here on the earth. If you go back to the oldest texts from the Bible, they do suggest that one form of angel is the type that is born here on earth and lives apparently an ordinary human life. That is one type. Of course, those were removed from the Bible because they were deemed to be heretical to the idea of a Trinity, in which you have God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and that's all there is. But if you look to the prophecies, if you look to the information, it says that now is the time. Now is the time for you to become something more than you already are. In Wanderer Awakening, we have 50 songs, 25 of which I'm doing lead vocals, 25 of which I'm doing voiceover with a wonderful musical accompaniment in the background. And what I did there is to take the spiritual principles from the Course in Miracles and from the Law of One, two of the most important channeled sources ever given, and work those spiritual principles into a narrative, into a story of this angelic being who becomes human. And we go right through from the beginning of the universe to the fall into materiality, to then the challenges that this character faces as he goes through his own life, forgetting who he is, having love and loss, having hope and disaster, and then eventually going through a complete awakening, a complete enlightenment. So what I've done is to take many of the themes that you hear in pop music about how much in love someone is, or about how sad and devastated someone is, and I shed new light on what those themes really involve, and the idea that you are in fact a spiritual being from beyond the pale of ordinary incarnation, and your body here and your life here is only a reflection. I would like you to think about the idea that you're moving through a hallway of intelligent infinity, that you are walking through the corridors of the divine, that every move that you make, every step that you take in this life is being recorded for infinity. This lifetime that you now have may be the most important lifetime you've ever had in the history of the cosmos, because even if you have karma from other past lives, if you believe that such a thing is true, in this lifetime you have the opportunity to rectify all of that. The point of power is in the present. It's not going to be in guilt over the past. It's not going to be in fear over the future. The prophecies of 2012 are prophecies that involve a golden age. It is only a misinterpretation of Bible prophecy that leads us to think that 2012 is doom and gloom, that leads us to think that all of these unpleasant things that we're seeing in the solar system are going to lead to massive tidal waves and massive cataclysms. That's a misinterpretation. Most of the prophecies say that we not only survive these changes, we thrive through the changes. The changes are what breaks down the shell that we've built around our heart that has walled away love and walled away peace and walled away the present moment, the ability to focus in the now. If you can just breathe with me right now, take in the living energy that forms your DNA, because your DNA is not randomly evolved. Your DNA exists all around you in space. The energy that makes your DNA can be here now as you breathe with me. As you take in that consciousness, as you understand who you are, the greatest mystery of the universe is identity. Your identity. Because the universe is a product of one consciousness, one energy. That energy has created galaxies. the galaxies seem to have their own personality. The personality of this galaxy is to create human life. According to the law of one, about 15% of all galaxies throughout the universe create human life, so it's a very popular design. That also means that if at some point there is a disclosure by the powers that be, whether it's Obama or another country, if that disclosure includes the idea that many extraterrestrial forms of life look and appear human just like us, now you know the answer as to how that paradox can be solved. You can see that DNA is not randomly evolved. DNA is a spontaneously emergent property of the vacuum itself. DNA is the product of an intelligent, loving consciousness. Planets are built to have life like us form on them. We are what the universe has created to experience sentient awareness. Our consciousness is the cutting edge in which God, or the Creator, is evolving now. The universe is not a static whole that is waiting for you to catch up to it. The universe, as it says in the law of one, is in a state of becoming. Your mind, your evolution, your consciousness right now is part of that evolution. The choices that you make, whether you're going to do the easy thing or whether you might do the more difficult thing, could determine so much. In the Law of One series, they say, in forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of karma. What is the wheel of karma? The wheel of karma means that you move from joy to disaster over and over again. When you're at the top of the wheel, everything seems great and everybody seems to love you. But then you fall to the bottom. The wheel goes round and round over and over again. Joy and disaster, joy and disaster. Well, what's really happening here? In forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of karma. In forgiveness is the understanding that there's only one of us here. There is no space, there is no time, there is no past or future, there is only now. And in fact, there is only foreverness, timelessness. The mystery of identity is the greatest mystery of all, because you're now seeing the evidence that the galaxy has programmed us to go through an incremental stage of evolution at this time, a spontaneous shift, almost like a flashbulb going off from a photographer. And after that flashbulb goes off and you open up your eyes and you look around, it's a whole new world. It's a world which, according to prophecies, will have us able to have abilities like levitation, telekinesis, instantaneous healing, thought transference. All of these things that we now think of as impossible, time travel, rewinding and fast-forwarding linear time almost like a videotape. It's nothing that we have to go outside of ourselves to find. And also, so many of you in the past, hopefully this will change now, have sent me emails in which you're expecting me to fulfill this sort of function for you as like a higher self, or as a savior, or a divine enlightened being that you can look up to. I don't want you to look up to me. I don't want you to put me on a pedestal. I have plenty of issues of my own. I have plenty of difficulties that I struggle with. I do have problems. So do you. So does everyone. That's part of the game. The game is that you are confused, and you can embrace the confusion. In fact, in the Law of One it says, it is entirely necessary that an entity consciously realize it does not understand in order to be ready for what is coming in 2012. To consciously realize you do not understand is to recognize that confusion is implicit in human incarnation. You can't get away from it. It's who you are. It's what you are. You're not meant to understand everything. This brain, this body that you have, cannot take in the consciousness of the field. It cannot take in the vast intelligence of the cosmos. You only are given a portion of who you really are. So again, I would ask you not to look to me to be that person who, oh, I have to meet you, David, I have to meet you. The person I want you to meet is yourself. I want you to meet your higher self, because your higher self is a part of you that exists outside linear time, millions of years more evolved than you are now. This part of yourself is absolutely wonderful, absolutely joyful, absolutely intelligent. It will never lead you astray. It will never guide you off the path. If you can learn to listen to what it has to say to you, it will only direct you in a way that will advance your evolution. The problem, if you want to call it that, is that sometimes what advances your evolution is very difficult. It's very painful. You can have things happen to you that seem to be disastrous. You can have a car crash. You could have a broken bone in your leg. You could have any number of financial catastrophes. You could have the person you love leave you. Well, here's the trick. If you don't love yourself, the universe does not send people to you who love you. The universe doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry that you're feeling bad. I'm going to send you love so that you'll be much better. No. The way the universe actually functions, which you learn about in sources of philosophy like the Law of One, is that if you don't love yourself, you've now created a field of attraction. And you're attracting to yourself people who don't love you. That's what happens when you don't love yourself. You don't get sent that which you haven't created. You get sent that which you have created. And you attract the like energy that you're putting out there. The universe does that deliberately so that when those unloving people come into your life, you will learn from them. You will learn to say no. This is not the power of now, this is the power of no. And the power of no is what comes to you when you learn to love yourself enough that you're not going to be manipulated. You're not going to be beholden to other people's negativity. When you look at the problems that we have on the earth now with the dreaded Illuminati or the New World Order, they're here by design. They're here because we attracted them here. They're here because they're fulfilling a function that stimulates the evolution of consciousness. Our consciousness is evolving by their presence. They are not simply villains who need to be eliminated. They are fulfilling a valuable function. By enslaving us, by manipulating us, by stealing our money, they are taking the power away from us that we have not acknowledged that we have. With all these technologies that I have showed you, with the limitless energy in the vacuum, we have the potential to eliminate fossil fuel, to eliminate the need to pay for energy. And with the elimination of scarcity comes the elimination of an economic system. It won't happen right away, but we can transition into a system in which there is no need for money at all. A system in which goods and services are provided by robots that we build, the technology that we build, the free energy devices that we build. But the universe cannot allow us to have that technology until we love and respect ourselves enough that we can use it responsibly. The family that we have, the galactic citizenry who's out there in the cosmos, who look human, almost the same as us, in many cases very similar to us, can't welcome us into their home until we are able to fundamentally rewrite the script that says that your God is different than my God, and therefore I'm going to kill you, I'm going to attack you, because my God is the good one. God is the universe. God is matter and energy and consciousness. There is nothing outside that universal consciousness. Almost every major religion on earth is monotheistic at its core and believes in one intelligent universal being that the universe has emanated from. Various enlightened teachers, as I said before, have given us knowledge based on their own perspective from their own culture. In many cases, human extraterrestrials, who we would call angels, have contacted these societies and given them messages, messages of hope, messages of peace, messages of how to evolve. And then over time, you get the texts rewritten, you get cultural differences, you get semantic differences, and they become religions. They become stratified so that you don't just have one way of thinking. And that's okay. Everybody has their own path of how they can find to get back to the oneness. But again, your higher self does exist. If you identify qualities in someone like myself or someone else, and you admire those qualities, and you're sitting there hoping that you'll be able to meet a person like that, look no farther to the stillness of the quiet point within yourself that you can find in meditation. Because in the now, there is that contact with your higher self. You can simply breathe in the consciousness of the universe and be one with who you are right now. You can live that consciousness. You can fulfill the promise that, in fact, human becomes godlike. That is the promise that ultimately even is in the Bible. Because in John 14:12, Jesus actually says, "As I do these things," meaning the miracles, "so shall you do them, and greater things, for I go unto my Father." The Father is the field. The Father is the intelligence of the cosmos. When you go unto the Father, when you go into the cosmos, when you tap into the field in the now, in the present moment, you have attained peace. You have transcended the duality of this world that says good and evil, light and darkness. You can see that those people in the past who may have been controlling and manipulating you were only bringing you to a point that you could stand on your own 2 feet, learn to say no without being angry, but by forgiveness. And forgiveness is the stoppage of the wheel of karma. Or as it says in the Course in Miracles, forgiveness collapses time. Time is what it takes to get from where you are now to where you will be when you reunify with yourself as the one infinite creator, as the infinite intelligence this cosmos is built from. You can collapse time in forgiveness. You can forgive everyone who's hurt you. You can forgive yourself for not seeing the truth and the beauty of your own perfection. Once you see that truth and beauty, you'll realize there is only one of us here. And you are the light, you are the love, you are the one infinite creator. This is how it was, how it is right now, and as it always will be. There is nothing else, there is no one else. There's only one of us here. I want to thank you for watching this video, and may peace be with you. Congratulations, you now have your diploma. You're invited to the I Told You So party in 2013.